Hi, my name is Jennifer Matos. I'm the Executive Director of the Noah Webster House in West Hartford Historical Society, and I'm bringing you the 18th edition of our Armchair Tour of West Hartford history. I'm standing here in Corbin's Corner, which is in the south end of town, and a pretty busy shopping center that probably many of you have frequented. In the last few years, this shopping plaza has really seen a lot of improvements made to it. So on one end we have Shake Shack, and on the other end we have Red Robin. And in between there has been improvements to the different buildings. The biggest improvement that you'll have noted is where the old Sears building was, which today has been renovated to house REI, Bye Bye Baby, and World Market. And interestingly, Sears was the anchor store for this plaza when it was developed in the 1950s and early 60s. So let me tell you a little bit about the land. So the land itself that is today Corbin's Corner was owned by the Newton family as early as the 1890s. And the last owner was a man named Isaac J. Newton. And Isaac Newton passed away in the late 1940s. His estate went to Travelers, and they sold it to a company called Corbin's Realty Company to be developed into what would become Corbin's Corner. So you may be wondering why they named it Corbin's Corner. So the Corbin name comes from the Corbin homestead, the Corbin farm, that was actually located across the street from here, so about where Westfarms Mall is today. The Corbins lived on that land for many, many years. The patriarch of the family was named Philip Corbin, and he and his wife had 10 children. They kind of moved around quite a bit, so they were in Willington, Farmington, West Hartford, Ellington, and then come back to the West Hartford in the 1820s or so. So there is one son in particular who really stands out in the Corbin family, and his name is Philip Corbin Jr. So he's about 15 years old when the family returns here to West Hartford. He attends one of the local district schools, and then actually attends something called the West Hartford Academy. At the age of 19, he goes to work in New Britain in the manufacturing industry. And he actually is apprenticed to learn the art of making locks. He takes this knowledge and actually gets his own contract with a company so that he can actually think about starting his own company and creating locks as part of this contract. So he and his brother Frank actually start a company called the P&F Corbin Company. And this is something that they get started in around 1848. They have a couple investors, but by 1952 they have bought all the interest in the company, and it gets its official name, P&F Corbin Company. When they get started, the first thing that they produce are these metal balls that are to be put on the horns of oxen and cattle. But from there, they go on to produce a variety of products, including coat and hat hooks, sash fasteners, picture nails, locks, knobs, and coffin trimmings. And by the early 1870s, so about 20 years into the company, they start moving towards making decorative finishes, decorative hardware. And so you can actually find P&F Corbin hardware in a variety of really fine buildings throughout the Northeast, including the Connecticut State Capitol right here in Hartford. Now in 1870, Philip Corbin is living in New Britain with his wife, a son, and 2 servants. His estate his house is valued at $20,000, and his personal estate, all of his assets, are valued at about $118,000, which in today's money would be $2.3 million. So Philip Corbin has done very well for himself, especially considering he grew up here on this farm in West Hartford, in a very rural area. He is the president of P&F Corbin Company, but throughout his career he actually founds many other companies and is president of them as well. So he, in addition to the P&F Company, he's president of the American Hardware Company, the Corbin Cabinet Lock Company, the New Britain Machine Company, and Porter and Dillon Company. And in addition to being president of these companies, he's actually vice president of several companies as well. He's vice president of the New Britain Savings Bank, director of the Hartford National Bank, director of the Mechanics National Bank in New Britain, and director at the Hartford Steam Boiler. As an adult, he becomes very involved in civics and community engagement in New Britain. So he is a member of the City Council, he's a member of the Water Commission. He actually is elected to the state legislature in 1884 as a state representative, and then in 1888 as a state senator. He dies at the age of 86 in 1910, and he's buried in Fairview Cemetery in New Britain. And you can actually go see his monument. It's the second largest monument in the cemetery, which shows you a little bit of his wealth and stature. At the time of his death, his companies employed over 1,800 people. So he really brought a lot of money to the economy and a lot of jobs to the area. Now, the P&F Corbin Company actually merges with the American Hardware Company. And then Black & Decker actually purchases the American Hardware Corporation in 1989. And then more recently, in 2010, Stanley Works, also of New Britain, purchases Black & Decker. And now they're called Stanley Black & Decker. So kind of the forerunner of Stanley Black & Decker does have some connection to P&F Corbin Company. And of course, he got his start right here in West Hartford. It's interesting that Corbin's Corner is named after the Corbin family. There's also a Corbin's Avenue in New Britain that is named after Philip Corbin. And I wouldn't say that Corbin's Corner is named after Philip Corbin, but certainly he is the most famous of the Corbin family. But the Corbins really owned this farmland that was adjacent to this spot for well over 100 years. So they're very much associated with this area. They also were literally on a corner. I'm going to post a map from 1909 so you can see the corner I'm talking about. But basically where their house is, there is a turn where the road goes to Farmington. And so it was a literal corner that their farm occupied, and hence the name. This area became really known as Corbin's Corner. Now today, as we started off in the beginning, the retail is thriving here in Corbin's Corner. It's been here for well over 50 years. And the company that maintains it right now is a Florida-based real estate company called Regency Centers. And they've actually made a lot of improvements to the plaza, as we mentioned. And they do have plans to renovate existing building facades, to reconfigure parking, which I'm sure we'll all appreciate, add new landscaping, lighting, and other amenities for pedestrians along New Britain Avenue, which certainly this is not a very pedestrian-friendly area right now. So I'm sure many of you have been shopping here in Corbin's Corner, maybe never realized that that was the name. Now you know it's the name, and now you know that it relates to the Corbin family. And Philip Corbin really was a very instrumental person in Connecticut history and got his schooling right here in West Hartford. Hope you learned a little something new, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.